So we're off to the races. And in fact, I've got, you guys are all far out there, and I could hold this up in front of my little teeny webcam here and show you what they look like, but essentially they look the same on all the devices. I put them on all these devices, and the functionality is there for us to use. There's a problem with, though, this, that I think there's a problem with this. Like, coming from Adobe's perspective, Adobe, you think about Adobe, you think of Photoshop, you think of high creative types of content. And so, this is not really creative to me. I mean, in fact, this actually violates, whether it's this UI or this UI. In this case, this works because iOS, as a UX behavior, expects you to have a bar at the top. And it expects you to put something on that. But if I take this application and say, you know what, hey, let's put this on Android, well, guess what? It's going to look the exact same. That's a problem because Android doesn't have a title bar at the top. And in fact, it goes one step further and provides 4 different embedded hard buttons on every device for you to interact with. And this would even look more funky if I put it on TV. Then we're totally out of the box there. So I think from a UX perspective, while we have frameworks that are kind of coming up and providing this functionality to quickly and easily build mobile content, that doesn't mean that it's the correct UX context. I think that's very important when it goes to building your applications and providing the hooks that the users are going to expect. So for example, on iOS, another example would be on iOS, no search button, no back button, because the title bar is expected to have a back button. That's why when you go on to the next screen, it produces a back button. But again, on Android, there's a hard back button. So why are you eating up my user space with a back button and a title bar? I don't need that. So UX becomes a real challenge, and I think a lot of the frameworks out of the box kind of just assume, hey, iOS is what everybody likes. It looks pretty. Let's just do it. And I don't think that's right, especially from a creative perspective. And so let me give you an example. Let me show you another example here. I don't know if anybody here likes beer. I happen to be a big fan myself. So I built an application. It's a beer journal. So I'll go ahead and run the beer journal here. And so you can see it's got these grains, that's the splash screen, and then the splash screen goes away. It's got a kind of a parchment texture on the background. The row columns have very custom fonts in this case. You'll notice that in this case, I've been running on Android. There is no title bar here at the top. There is no back button. As I go into look at the different screen, you get a very custom format. I don't think there's anything here. And then you say, well, how do I edit this? Shouldn't there be a plus or an edit button in the corner on the title bar? Yes, if you're on iOS, but you're not on iOS. I told this to target for Android. So it actually expects that there's a menu button. And it turns out that you tell the device to launch the menu button, and then it will bring up the menu, which is what an Android user expects. So hey, go ahead and edit this record. And so now we get this place where we can where we show different types of textual focuses. They change. The fonts are really nice. Grains are still kind of at the bottom. And then we can really take it even one step further and say, what is the flavor characteristics of this particular guy? And we could, in this case, I haven't finished the work on assigning this, but we can actually go ahead and set the different characteristics on these different characters. So like if it's alcoholic and solvent, is that a 5 or a 1 or just doesn't exist? And we go ahead and set that and chart that out in the wheel. And this is where, again, kind of having the full form creativity of working with content, working within the context of Flash is really helpful because Flash lets you improvise. Flash lets you do whatever you want to do for that particular UI. Flash lets you work with our creative tools very seamlessly to provide a great experience that's outside the box. If you try to do this, if you try to do something like this wheel on iOS, you're going to fight lots of uphill battles. If you try to think outside of the box on iOS, you're going to fight a lot of uphill battles because iOS, the SDK, has components that expect to work a certain way, that expect to map to certain functions. And to get at them and make them change their behavior to look like you want them to look, then you really have to subclass that particular component and get into the lifecycle of the component and really start managing with the data. Here we actually are just using the traditional tools that we would use with Flash to build these types of applications. I heard an interesting quote that I won't say who said it, but I think it's fairly accurate. So one of the questions was, I don't know why you build a native application at this point. I've shown you two different approaches. You have all these devices, guess what? They will all run jQuery. They will all run AIR. We can build and deploy applications with all of them using non-native technologies. And Adobe tooling is really leading the way in helping you deliver that, whether it be for corporate America or whether it be for the educational and learning spaces or any other space, gaming, for example, on and on. So that's actually a good opportunity for me to mention this. I was thinking outside the box. You know, the three trends I wanted to kind of talk about. The first one was the proliferation of devices. The second one was the evolution of web standards. In this case, we consider that to be both HTML and Flash. We've shown how Adobe tooling can help you move forward in that respect. And the third one is user expectations. Users expect to be mobile out of the gate anymore, and they expect a good experience. They don't. If they go and download your application and it doesn't work the way they want it to work or look appealing to them, they're gone. They'll uninstall it, and what's worse is they'll review it. So unlike a traditional web page, where like, oh, I'm never going to that site again, they'll rate it and let you know and everybody else know just how horrible that experience is. And so experience is very much a critical part of what how Adobe views the world. This is kind of hard to see, but this is a game. Let me bring up my camera here. So this is obviously backwards, so you have to work with the left side of the brain? No. The idea, this is a word game. The idea is to take the different various letters and move them to the. This is very hard to play back side. But essentially, is to take the letters and move them from point A to point B, and it's got some pretty cool kind of out of the box notations. This is for you go to reset. Or you go to the next game if you figure you can't move this one, so you take this and you slide it over and it resets it, or it goes on to the next game or what have you. And you can see this is kind of hard to see on the screen, but it's a very colorful game. It has a bunch of really nice textures. It kind of makes you want to reach out and touch it. It's got the nice shadows in there. This is built with our Flex technology, the Flex technology that I just showed you, and deployed in the app market. And you can go out and download it and play with it today. It's called Pyramix. And there are a number of other games that are coming out from Flash technology. And the reason people move to Flash technology specifically around gaming, which I think is very key in the world of educational spaces, because I tend to think of a lot of the content that could be built in the educational spaces as gaming, because you learn a lot from working with those games. But you see a lot of those types of applications coming from non-native solutions. So I think that's kind of the other kind of core takeaway there, is that while users are expecting the best, native solutions cost you a lot of money to get to all these different relevant devices, and they also give you the best of breed for the user experience. They don't meet user expectations. So whatever way you go, whatever tooling you need to be able to produce non-native applications, or I say non-native because they're not in Objective-C, they're not written in Java, but they're fundamentally native, deployed into the app store just like any other application. I would suggest that Adobe tooling is a great way to do that. If you went out and downloaded that virus application, and if you started it and ran it, if you went out and downloaded the virus, it just sounds right. I'll go ahead and start that on the Galaxy tab just because it's a little easier to see. And we'll start with, this is a Droid X. I want to have one of my fellow speakers help me out here. So I've given him one of the devices. If you went out and downloaded the application, you can do this as well. But so would you go ahead and just press on the screen and drag and drop? And so you see, he's actually on my screen, it actually is, there's a little germ that appears when he moves down and starts working. Let me see, actually, float up with it again here. So there's his little germ up there, see? And so he's doing that, and then I can also put my own germ, which is under my finger right now, but he sees that on his screen as well. And if anybody else had the application was playing, you would also see our germs. And in fact, this particular application is designed to be essentially infinitely scalable in terms of connectivity. Guess how much I had to invest in server technology, or how much time I had to spend on setting up real-time server communications. I spent nothing. That's what the other great thing about Flash technology. Flash technology is built around the idea of being expressive, real-time collaboration between everybody in this room on this particular tablet or that particular phone, or that particular tablet, or that particular phone, that can all be accomplished. And that's what Adobe is really all about, is really trying to enable you to deliver content wherever you want to. Television, smartphone, tablet, desktop, browser, you name it. So that's where we're going. Again, just kind of recap on those trends, things to think about down the road. We're going to kind of take away kind of something more than just Adobe rocks, which of course it does. The things to think about are proliferation of devices, right? We've only just started. Devices, like 12 more tablets by the end of the year. Are you kidding me? Right, we've only just started. Proliferation of devices, trend number one. Trend number two, evolution of web standards. Web standards are evolving. Whether you consider web standards to be classic W3C or web working group, or whether you consider to be innovations that are being done by the browsers independently, or whether you consider to be Flash, other technologies that historically lended their abilities to the depth of the web experience, those technologies are all evolving. Right? Again, you wouldn't have thought normally, right, according to Mr. Jobs, that I could do this with Flash. Here I am. By the way, it also works on my iOS device. So, web standards are evolving. That's number two. And then number three is user expects an experience. We've seen this before, we've seen it again, right? Go to a crappy website, it's out. Right? Same thing with an app, but worse because they'll leave notes for you behind. And if you really want users to be able to use your content and be able to actively engage your customers or your users or your students or whatever the case may be, I implore you to think about the fact that OSs behave differently, that users expect them to behave a certain way, and that you will need to be able to deliver in that certain way. And then I would say take it one step further, embellish. Embellish the creative part of you and deliver that content that really makes the user want to come back to your application and use it. With it, that's my time. Again, my name is Kevin Hoyt. Thank you very much.